Hello and welcome to the Excel VBA object series. In this series we've talked about the Excel object model and we've seen in more detail each of the most important objects. So far we've covered the application object, the workbook object, the worksheet object and the range object. In this video we will talk about the shape object. So a shape can be of many different types. So we can have an outer shape like this one here, a rectangle. We can have a text box, or we can have form controls also. These are all shapes and we can add them and work with them targeting the shape object. So let's go to the Visual Basic Editor and see how to target a shape. So let's say target shapes. And we need a worksheet reference to target the shape. So with the range object or cells, we didn't have to reference a worksheet. Excel, if we write range, Excel will assume this refers to the active sheet, but that's not the case with the shape object. We need to reference a worksheet either with active sheet or with the name of the worksheet, with sheets 1 or the name, or in this case we could say sheet 1, which is the object name here of the only worksheet that we have in the document. So now if we say shapes, we can target any shape in the worksheet with either the index or the name. And the name of the shape is actually here on the left. For example, this is rectangle 1. This is text box 2 and this is button 1. So we can add here rectangle 1 and, for example, select or apply any of the other properties and methods. And we're going to see all those properties or some of those properties in a moment. So if I run this code, it's going to select the rectangle. Now we can also, always with sheet 1, target the shapes collection altogether. So for example, we could count the number of shapes we have in the worksheet. If we put that in a message box, we get 3. And we can also add a new shape targeting the shapes collection. So let's see that in another macro, add shapes. But I'm going to do that in another worksheet. So sheet 2. Sheet 2 shapes, add. And as you see, there are different types of shapes we can add. You can see the full list in the Excel VBA objects guide. And here we see the name, the value, and the description of the shape. So let's say we want to add a regular auto shape, which is add shape. And then we need to specify the different attributes. The first one is the type of shape. And in this case, one of the MsoAutoShapeType Enumeration. As you see, there are so many different auto shapes. And again, you can also see the full list in the Excel VBA objects guide down here. Or you can get a visual of the objects actually in my blog, Excel Macro class. If you go down to the shape object under the Excel VBA objects, and then you navigate to add new shapes, you will find here the structure to add a new shape. And then if you follow this link, you will see the MsoAutoShapeType Enumeration, which shows you how the objects look like actually, and you have here the name and the value. And the name always starts with MSO, which is Microsoft Office, because this list applies to all Microsoft Office applications. So let's say we want to add a rectangle, MSO shape rectangle. Here we have it. And we could write the name or the number. The number for the rectangle is 1. And then we need to specify 4 properties to determine the position and the dimension of the shape, or in this case, of the rectangle. And as you see, the first is the left, then top, width, and height. So let's say we want a rectangle placed 100 points from the left of the worksheet and another 100 points from the top, and it will be 200 points wide and with 100 points of height. So if I play this macro now and we go back to the worksheet, now we see we have a rectangle which is 100 points from here and 100 points from the top, and it has 200 points of width, 100 points of height. Now if we want to add that to a particular range, we would get the position and dimension of the range first. So let's say set RNG is our target range equals to And we can specify here the range we want to select, or we can just say selection, so whatever is selected, and then we say the range left equals rng.left, range top, rng.top, and so on. And then we need to change this here, so that's the left, top, width, and height. And if we run the macro now, as you see, it adds a rectangle exactly in that range that was selected. So it fits the entire range. We often use object variables to add and assign that shape to the variable. So in that case, we would, we didn't declare RNG, but RNG is a range. And now we're going to use another variable which is SHP as a shape. And then we're going to set SHP equals, but in this case we need to put that in parentheses. So it's going to be all of that inside of the parentheses. And this will also add a shape, but now we have the advantage that we have a shape object we can work with. So if we write SHP, now we can apply any of the properties and methods of the shape. And for example, we may want to change the name. So now let's say with SHP, we want to change the name of this new rectangle. So it's going to be it's going to be new rectangle. And we may want to change the color, for example. And this works a bit different than with the range object. Here we need to use the fill property to change the background of the shape, and we would use the line property to change the line or the border. We don't have the borders property as we had with the range. And then we have to target the for color. So we don't have the color property as we had with the range object. Again, it's a bit different here. And we actually work with the RGB function. So it needs to say RGB equals, and we've seen already how RGB works. So it accepts 3 parameters: the level of red, the level of green, and the level of blue. And if we set it to the maximum for red, we will, and then we end the with statement here and select another range, let's say this one here. Now we will have a shape color in red. And if we click the shape, we see the name is new rectangle. Otherwise, Excel is going to give a name. So usually rectangle 1, rectangle 2, and so on. And with the same principle, we can change any other properties of the shape. We could change, once the shape has been added, we could change the dimensions or the position of the shape with the left and top properties, the position, and with the width and height properties, the dimension, as we've seen earlier. And depending on the shape, there might be other properties, such as, for example, the rotation. So we could rotate the rectangle or any other similar shape. And then we can also add text and format the text inside of the shape. This makes more sense when we work with text boxes, for example, or form controls. So in the next video, we'll see how to add a text box, for example, and how to add text and format the text inside of the box. And we'll also see how to add form controls, such as, for example, a button. And then how to format that button, how to add the text or the caption to the button, and also how to associate the button with an action, with another macro that will run when we click the button. We will also see how to delete shapes, including all the types of shapes in a worksheet, and how to target certain shapes. For example, if we just want to delete the auto shapes, or if we just want to delete the text boxes, all the text boxes in a worksheet, we will learn how to specifically target each type of shape with the type property. So stay tuned for the next video, and thanks for watching.